Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Everybody just nods. All right. It's 9 o'clock. Let's get started. Thanks for joining. Who's not here? Casey? I think that's it. Chris, Tom. Anyway, let's get going. Start with some gratitudes. How about you, Jacqueline?
I am grateful that my doctor's office has lifted the restrictions on visitors, so Marcio gets to come to an ultrasound tomorrow. It's the first one.
That'll be fun. You don't want me to go?
No, I'm all set.
That would creep me out too. All right. Let's see, Ryan.
I'm grateful I found a cool new book called It Takes What It Takes by Trevor Moawad. It's Power of Neutral Thinking. So yeah, it's a really good book. I just read like
Power of Neutral Thinking?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Let me know.
Yeah.
Have you started reading it?
Yeah, I read like 100 pages last night. It's really good.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right, cool. June?
I'm thankful for the rain. I slept really good last night, and my grass is turning green because I turned my sprinklers on late, so it was kind of brown. So thankful for the rain.
Right on. That's cool. John Arsenault?
I'm grateful my sister's in town. She's moving from Louisiana to Utah, and she's coming through town today.
That's cool. I'm going to try to text Casey while we're here.
I think the link is weird. It said this link is for May 5th. The first time I tried to click it, so they might need new links.
Yeah, it was a little weird when I tried to do it too.
Emily just emailed looking for a link,
Oh, okay.
so something's wrong.
Tom Tacker, you're up.
I'm also thankful for the cold, rainy weather. I love this kind of weather, so just puts me in a good mood.
You went fishing this weekend. Did you catch anything?
Yeah, we were out yesterday, caught probably like 70 walleye and 3 were keepers, so got some food.
70?
Yeah, they're about. Yeah, out on Cherry Creek.
70 fish.
Yeah.
It just seems insane to me.
You only kept 3?
What sucks about catching 70 fish is that you gotta get the hook out of 70 different fish's faces.
That's easy. Yeah, only Cherry Creek is hard. You're only allowed to keep them between 18 inches and 21 inches. And a lot of the fish are either like huge, they're like 25 or 26, or there's a lot of them
12.
that are like.
To be clear, that's 12 inches. So it's like another 6. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them that are like 17 and a half.
I'm glad other people like to fish, not me. Let's see. Casey.
I don't know. I was thinking what I was grateful. My gratitude was I'm grateful that my wife is back in town. She was gone for 3.5 days. And,
So were you
2 kids around for that
Were you
amount of
Mr.
time
Mom?
by yourself. What's that?
You were Mr. Mom?
Yeah,
Oh, that's a lot of work, man.
it's a lot of work.
Yes, I bet you're grateful. Claire?
I'm grateful that my gym opened this weekend. This morning was my first day back. Hit the spin bike and I placed 3rd out of 11. So.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's not bad. You didn't miss much. Dan?
I'm grateful for the morning time I get to spend with my daughters. They get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and we get to hang out and play, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh. Already got John. This is like gotten reshuffled now. Chris Hauber.
I'm grateful for Annie because I'm going out of town for 3 days tomorrow, and Annie's going to just kill it and take care of everything for me. Thanks, Annie.
You're welcome.
What's going on with that tree in our parking lot?
Gone.
It's gone?
Yep.
Sweet. I didn't have to do anything. For those of you that don't know, the windstorm on Saturday knocked and it's not even fair to call it a tree because that trunk, how wide was that trunk, Hauber? Like 4 or 5 feet wide?
Sorry, I'm trying to get the picture if you can see it. There's my car. Almost smashed my car.
It would have totaled your car.
Yeah.
It would have crushed the car. And then Lori and I drove over there to see it. And I was talking to the landlord. So the Chaos Pizza has a landlord. That Chaos doesn't own the building. And I was talking to their landlord, and they're like, first she tried to tell me that it's half on my property and half on hers. It's like, I go, is it? And so she goes, oh yeah. And I said, okay, I don't think it is, but I'm going to go look. And then when I got there, she goes, we have a chainsaw, so we'll be able to just cut it down. I'm like, I called her and I go, I don't think you have a chainsaw this big. Cause it was like freaking, it was huge. And so, but their son has a tree service or whatever. So I'm glad it's gone and I don't have to do anything. So Giuseppe, how about you?
I'm thankful I got some good news from my sister who lives in Hawaii. She had a medical scare and had a mole that turned into melanoma. And then they took it out like a big 1-inch cube of her chest. But they think they got it also.
That is good news. Melanoma is like one of the I didn't know this, is one of the most easily treated cancers, but if you don't catch it, it's one of the most deadly. I didn't know that. Annie.
Yeah, I would say just rainy weather, so I don't have to go outside and water all my plants today. So take some time, so I'm happy about that.
There you go. Are you working at home?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Emily.
I am thankful that I am starting to see my parents more again.
You're starting to what?
See my parents more again.
I still didn't understand you.
Her family. See her family.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying. I was going to say you should be grateful for all the great meetings that you've been having with real estate agents lately.
That too.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Well, I'm just grateful that things are opening up, and we've got some people here at the tech center today. Travis is here, Jonathan's here, Michelle is here, her daughter's here, Lily's here. I think I know Amy's here, Ashley and Holly will both be here. So just cool. Tom's here, Jan's here. So it's just cool to see. Ryan's here. Just cool to see that many people around, and just, you don't realize how cool it is when you haven't seen somebody for a long time, and then you see them, it's like, hey, what's going on? And everybody's all happy. So anyway, we'll keep that going. So I'm going to share my screen. Apparently Jacqueline's been having some issues sharing hers. And then Jacqueline, I think I can give you control.
Okay.
But I don't know how. Let me see. Remote control. Yeah, there you go. Click here to, there you go. So Jacqueline's driving.
Stop this. Okay, so what I generally do with clients when I first get introduced to them, I don't typically use the online application unless that's what the client wants. I've always taken the applications over the phone since I started, so that's kind of the method that I prefer. And I figure if I'm on the phone with them anyways, having an initial conversation, it's just that much easier to get some of the data. So what I typically do is I will collect the information, set up their loan profile. It also lets me customize their Flowify docs. That way, if I'm not sitting at my computer right when they fill out the application and they send me a bunch of stuff that I don't necessarily need, And so that just kind of helps me streamline that piece of the process a little bit more. But I always tell clients, usually depending on time of day that I take the application, that I will get them a mortgage quick presentation within an hour of our initial consult. I always blind CC the buyer's agent on this email if they came from a buyer's agent, just so that the agent knows, one, I've spoken with them, and two, this is their setup. I always include a video just to kind of talk them through what they're seeing. It's a real quick video. I try to keep it to around 1 minute to 2 minutes at the most. And it's really just a summary of, here's what you're seeing, here's why I set it up this way based on whatever information that they gave me on the phone. So this particular client, she for sure wanted to put down 20%. She said she's probably going to be between 450 and 550. So I just set up a broad range based on that information. And then when in the email that I send over to her with this, I tell her, hey, I've set you up into our Flowify system so you can upload your documents, and here's the link to schedule a time for us to do our online meeting. So this client I'm meeting with after this call. And then on that call, what I'll do is just recap the initial conversation. We want monthly payment to be X, cash out of pocket to be this. Did you have a chance to look at the presentation I sent you? Any initial questions that I need to review with you? And then that way I just know if something new has come up since the last time I talked to them, depending on how long that's been. And then I really just kind of run through the scenarios. So this one is easy because it's 20% down across the board. So I just pick one. And then I go through, I do talk about rate, which is a little different than what Haber does. And then we talk about payment. I explain what payment includes, talk about the cash to close number. And then we click into, more info. I talk about this piece. I ask them again, as far as taxes, where are you looking, so that I can get a better idea, depending on county, if I'm going to be on target as far as what I'm estimating for taxes and insurance. If there's HOAs, we talk about HOAs. I always, with the HOA piece, talk about what to look for in an HOA, especially if they're payment sensitive. So it's like, hey, if you're looking at properties that have an HOA, maybe we don't want that payment to go over a certain amount. Take a look what the HOA is covering, and maybe that's something you're budgeting for in another column that maybe you don't need a budget for that. So maybe you are comfortable with a slightly higher HOA payment on particular properties because they're covering more things. So that's just something to kind of keep them thinking of that HOA piece. Then we talk through, I click into closing costs, and I just kind of run through what this summary talks about, and then I click into fee detail, and then I go through all of this information line by line, talk about our guarantees, talk about this piece. We review escrows and what those mean, talk through earnest money if they're not familiar with that yet. And then just kind of go back to the beginning and say, okay, that's it as far as the presentations are concerned, because we're only looking at one loan scenario or loan type. And then, hey, if this is the payment, are you still comfortable here? If this is the cash out of pocket, are you still comfortable here? Have you started looking at properties online? Is this the price point that you're looking at? Like, what of all the houses that you've looked at so far, what price point are you seeing that you like the most? And then I'll adjust the numbers for them from there.
You drill down. So like if they say, okay, I'm probably going to be at $500,000 down, and they say they want to do 20%, are you showing them, have you considered putting down 10%? And
I do. This client wants to put down anywhere between 100 to 150. So the 10 to 15% down payment scenario doesn't really make sense. If the client's very specific with the dollar amount, they're like, I want to put down 80 grand, then yeah, I'll go into like, okay, well, if you do 15%, there's what the rate might be. We could do a prepaid mortgage insurance, and we'll kind of talk through the differences there, and kind of narrow down the numbers that way. That way it's like, you're not tied to that 20%. And then I talk about with mortgage insurance, it's not a bad thing. It's not negative. It's a way to better leverage the money that you do have to get you into the house that you want, for maybe a little bit less than what you were planning on, and still keeping that payment comfortable. So I focus a lot on monthly payment comfort and cash out of pocket comfort, and restructure the loans that way. This one was a little unique just because she's got a lot more cash flow possibility.
So let's play this video because I want to see how fast you talk.
It's probably really fast.
Hey Mariah, Jacqueline here with Zenith Home Loans. Thank you so much for your time today. So I went ahead and got your profile all set up. Everything looks good. I've got you a list of documentation through our Flowify system for you to send over your paperwork. And so I set up a couple of loan scenarios for you based on our conversation. I started at $450, and for now I just did a flat 20% down, but no, we can adjust for that obviously. And then I did $500, $525, and then $550. Interest rate right now is coming in around 3 1/8%, which is excellent. Monthly payment includes property taxes and insurance. So on the low end, we're about $18.92. On the high end, we're about $22.34. And then I've got your cash to close number highlighted as well. If you click on more info, that'll break down the monthly payment. So I'm estimating $200 for tax and $150 for homeowners insurance for now, and we'll adjust that based on the property. And then if you click on closing costs and then fee detail, that'll give you a further breakdown of the costs and fees that are associated with the loan. So take a look and let me know if you have any immediate questions. But this all looks good based on the income numbers and things like that for you so far. I'll verify all that information obviously once your paperwork comes over, but these numbers look good, especially up at that $550 mark. We should be able to still keep that monthly payment fairly low for you, especially if you want to increase that down payment. So let me know if there's any immediate questions. We'll take a look at your documentation when it comes in, and then we can schedule some time for us to meet and review the loan scenarios for you as well. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
So do you, if you were recording that video, are you able to click over here, or is that part of the video that you're sending them and then it record that in the screen?
No.
Okay.
No, so the video is just the video. And then, but usually, and I don't know why I didn't say it in this one, usually what I'll tell them, be like, hey, this is where your closing costs are. This gives you an itemized list. Don't worry too much about the fees right now because we will spend some time reviewing all of them together. And then depending on what they've told me, if they're shopping other lenders or whatever, it's like, just know I overestimate all of my fees. So if you are comparing me to somebody else, sometimes they look more, but the reason for that is because we guarantee them, blah, blah, blah. So I'll touch on those points too.
Do you, and the only other thing I would say is that, because I'm sure people are hearing, and I'm anxious to welcome any feedback from anybody else right now. Just, I heard rates are really low, and you're showing somebody 3 1/8. Do you get any of the, maybe a good thing to say here, this is 3 1/8. This is with no points. And so some of the rates, like, is that, because does that come up? Are you,
sometimes,
I guess, before they bring it up?
Sometimes if they bring it up, then I'll address it. But usually in the consult, what I'll talk about, because I'll explain what points are. And I just tell them, like, I rarely will show you points at the beginning of the transaction because it doesn't matter how much the points are right now because you're not under contract. So any points I show you today are not going to be applicable in 30 days. So and depending on, again, I base it based off what they've told me. It's like, if you're cash sensitive, I'm probably, if we need to keep that cash out of pocket as low as possible, I'm probably not going to show you any point options unless it's super cheap to get there. If anytime points are less than $1,000, I'll always give the client an additional scenario, be like, hey, we can buy down the rate to this. Here's what your break even and things like that are. But at the beginning, I don't show points just because they're not real.
Are you using the purchase breakdown?
I don't usually.
Okay, even at the lock, when you're locking them in, they don't get one?
No, I'll usually just use the mortgage coach presentation because that's what they've been used to up until that point. I use the breakdown on refinances exclusively presently. If the client's getting really particular about wanting to see the fees, or maybe some clients, for whatever reason, no matter how many times I go over the mortgage coach, forget where to find closing costs. And so sometimes I'll do the breakdown at that point. But for the most part, I'm using it just on refis.
Right.
I'll use mortgage coach at the beginning to compare scenarios based on whatever we're trying to do. And then I'll flip it over to the refi.
Oh, and then I just want to hear this again. So when you take the lead call, on that call, you're angling to just take the application over the phone.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you offer them the link to do it online, or you can do it right now? Is that
I usually, depending on, like, if there's multiple people on the deal, if they're not with their partner, whoever is going to be on the transaction with them, I'll give them the options. Like, I can do it over the phone and only take because it takes 5 minutes to do it over the phone. If I send them the link, they may never fill it out. But if I've got them on the phone, I can do it right now. I can get them numbers right now. I can get them docs right now.
So but then how are you using Flowify after that?
I get all their information. I get off the phone. I'll set up their loan profile in Salesforce. I pull it into Encompass, pull credit, see what I need from them. So I'll run DU, see if I have day one certainty. I'll pull VOEs and things like that. And then I'll upload it into Flowify, and then I'll customize Flowify from there.
Okay. All right, cool.
But because when I've sent out just the online link, because I won't take live applications on the weekends, I send them the online link for those. So for those, I tell them, don't worry about sending in docs when you get the initial email. I'll review your file once it comes over, and then I'll customize it. No one listens to that. Then they send me everything. And it's usually, I rarely need tax returns. And sometimes I need more than what they've given me. So it's easier for me from a paperwork standpoint. And I want to try to streamline it for them as much as possible, so that if they are comparing me to somebody else, I've made it easier on them. And I like being able to send out this presentation. And like I said, I blind CC the buyer's agent on every single one. So the agent knows this is the conversation, and then they can start setting up stuff on their end as far as like a search and things.
I wonder if there's two things there. So I wonder if there's a way that you could somehow better explain not to send me anything, even though they don't listen to you. But on the other hand, once they start sending you things, that is one of the, that's one of the things that we used to say, like, give me the docs. People don't like to do that twice, right? So once they've sent you a set of documents, they're a little more committed to you than they are to shopping around some more. So I guess there's a give and take to that.
Yeah. And clients, because a lot of times they'll ask me, how long does it take you to get a pre-approval done? And my response is usually, well, how fast are you going to get me paperwork? Because I can pre-approve you as fast as you give me paperwork. As long as there's nothing funky in your profile that I need to have an underwriter look at it. Theoretically, if I took your application at 9 a.m. and you got me docs by noon, I can have you pre-approved and out shopping this afternoon.
As long as there's nothing funky.
Yeah, as long as there's nothing weird.
Who has questions or feedback or comments? Somebody, anybody?
It's good.
All right.
If you talk about rate, do clients like really like bring it up? I mean, I try to avoid it just because I just hate talking about it, and you know.
No, for the most part.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, for the most part, I don't get questioned that often, at least not here. Sometimes if they are shopping, because they'll do like the online rate shop, whatever, Ally Bank is usually the one that I get the most. And at that point, I have the client, I was like, well, send me over what they've sent to you and let me take a look. And then I'll see what they're doing. There's almost always a buy down point. And then we'll look at it from there. And it's like, look, and then I reiterate, I was like, look, you're not under contract. These rates, I can quote you 2.5% today. And if the market moves between now and whenever you go under contract, that's what the rate is. I had a client yesterday that I had locked in last week at 3 1/8. And yesterday they terminated, but he went and did an online shop and got another rate for 3%. And yesterday wanted me to match it. And I was like, well, but you've terminated your contract. So the rate doesn't matter anymore. So why don't we wait until you're back under contract, and then we'll look at it, send me the quote you got, and then we'll deal with it from there, because now the market's better. I'm sure I can get down to 3. So I don't focus too much on it. If they're really aggressively on the rate, I kind of am just like, look, this is the level of value. This is why, take it or leave it, depending on who the client is. Because some of them, like this guy is kind of a cheapskate, and so I'm not gonna fight him because it's not worth it.
It's that whole thing. Just remember, everyone, 16% of the business you're never going to get no matter what you do. 16% you're going to get no matter what you do, right? So you could be terrible at it, terrible follow-up, high priced, and they're still going to use you. 16% are never going to use you. You could have the sharpest price and amazing service.
Yeah, and this client was like offended.
68% in the middle.
And this client was offended that I quoted him 3 1/8. I'm like, why are you so mad? It was really bizarre. So it kind of depends on the scenario. And then I'll tell clients, like, well, so what's the difference between you and the other guy? And I'll tell them to be like, look, it's the level of value, and here's what I do, and this is my job, and you should go with who you're the most comfortable with and who you think is going to take the best care of you. And just in that conversation alone, I've won 3 deals in the last week and a half that were shopping me with another lender that the realtor gave them. And then I have, if they don't use me because of the rate or because of my fees or whatever it is, I have a really stock answer that I respond to them. I'm like, if there's anything more I could have done, let me know. But my goal is to always make sure I'm providing the highest level of service. And they always, almost always come back with, well, no, this guy's rate was just a little bit better, but I'm going to refer you to all my friends. I'm like, why would you refer me to your friends if you won't even use me? But
I love it when they do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So one thing on this, Jack, so yeah, if you're dealing with a rate shopper client or you feel like they're really rate sensitive, then the only thing I would do differently for me, and it doesn't mean it's the right thing, but I would probably show them both ends of the spectrum, 450 and 550, and then show them like at 3.125 and at 2.75,
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I'll do that sometimes too.
Yeah.
And I won't usually do it on the initial when I first send this out, because this is the first round of this conversation with Mariah. Once I talk to her today, because I have a sit with her at 10, I'll restructure this based on whatever she tells me, because by then we usually will narrow. It's not usually a 450 to 550 range that they're actually looking at. So I can usually narrow it down more and then be like, hey, we could also do this. Like maybe we're looking at 20 and 25% down for her. And so I can restructure some things that way.
Very cool. Yeah, I would be showing the points for sure. I would be doing, because that's how I would always, when I was still producing, would show points, no points for sure in a scenario like this. And then, because, you tell people you get whatever rate you want, right? So is anybody still using, because I don't know, we haven't talked about this in a while. Is anybody still using the Quicken pages showing all the points, the 2 points or 2 1/8 in points that they're charging? Is anybody still pulling that up for their clients when they're getting shopped on rate, or is that not a thing anymore?
I kind of do what Jacqueline did. If they bring it up, I'm like, oh, who was it? Like, if they say Wells or Quicken or Chase, I'll just like, while I'm doing my screen share Zoom or in the sit room downstairs, I'll just pull it up and be like, yeah, well, you're not putting down 25% and you're paying X amount in points and blah, blah, blah. So that usually kind of settles that. So same as Jack.
Yeah. You can usually show the difference. It's not like somebody's 3/4 or 0.5% lower in rate than we are with the same fee structure. It's just not. That would be unusual, highly unusual. All right, cool. Does anybody else have anything else want to ask her? All right.
I have one thing, just thought I'd throw it in there, but had I don't want to say like an objection, but past client that sent a potential refinance, past client deal where we're covering costs, going from 3.625 to 3%. And he goes, well, I just, saved almost $200 a month. And he goes, well, I just got a notice in the mail that they can refinance me and save me over $700 a month. So doing it for $175 to $200 a month just doesn't seem worth it to me. I just said, I don't know. There's no possible way that you can save $700 a month. There's no possible way.
That's why mortgage coach is great. You just put it in there and be like, dude, here's the math. Like,
yeah,
they're probably not escrowing. That's where, they're just lying to you.
Yeah, that was exactly it. They were calculating off of his current payment and then showing him a payment that didn't have escrows.
So you should really get that, like, as much as you can, you guys should try to get your clients and save your own, because we all get those wild ass offers in the mail.
Yeah.
When your client gets one, go scan that to me and then let me show it to you. And then see right here what they did, see how that works, see how deceptive that is. And then I'd be putting that shit all over social media. It's really sad when our clients get deceptive advertising and marketing like this. If you want the straight numbers, give me a call, right? So, because and what drives me crazy is when somebody that you did business with gets sucked in and then just doesn't even call you, and then they start down the road, and then you're talking, it's like, oh yeah, I refinanced. It's like, oh my God, and either they spent a fortune or they got completely misled. So just a side story, I'm interviewing a guy, the guy that was the signing agent, Chris and Giuseppe, that you guys got those emails from him. I've interviewed him a couple times. I've had him take a sales test, and we're talking about bringing him on. But he shared some stories about that the reason he loves doing our loans, and he's trying to get more of our loans by talking exclusively to Canyon Title and just going, hey, anytime you get those Zenith loans. And the reason that he wants our loans as a signing agent is because because the customer always closes and doesn't rescind. So when he goes to a customer's house and they're pissed off because now they're supposed to bring a check in for $2,000, when they thought they were getting $500 back, they don't close, and he only gets half of his fee for going out there. And so it's interesting. And I go, well, how often does it happen? He goes, it happens all the time. He goes, the worst is Loan Depot. Loan Depot does it to everybody, where the client, and he said that Loan Depot has a deal where the customer gets an original CD a couple of weeks before the closing, and then they get a CD the day of closing that's different than the original one, and then the CD that he's having them sign is different from the one they saw this morning. And the customer, and so like that's your competition. I'd be telling that story over and over again. So it's like, what makes me different? It's like, oh, you see these numbers right here? These are going to be your numbers when you close. What's not going to happen, and this happens all the time, and this was supposed to have gone away, but it still hasn't. As long as the customer, because everybody's gaming the system, and here's how we do it. You get a CD 4 days before closing. That's the final number, and it's going to match these numbers I'm showing. You're not going to be asked to bring $2,000 to closing. And then you've wasted 30, 45, 60 days processing a loan you think is closing, and now you're not going to close on it. And what if the markets run away from you? So, you know, being able to say that you deliver on what you say, you know, we do what we say we're going to do as promised, on time, under budget, no surprises. That's a big deal because it isn't what everybody does. And you should be able to say it with confidence. So anyway, anything else? Any other questions? Feedback, good stuff. Jack, thanks for sharing. Who wants to volunteer for next week? I got John, Casey, Tom. Casey, you're up. All right. And then Tom, and then John, because you still got to show us yourself. This is really helpful. Is everybody enjoying this? I am. It's just cool to see what everybody's doing and just get different perspectives. There isn't just one way to do it, but the common thing here is obviously Mortgage Coach, which we are a mortgage coach company and always will be. So, all right, well, that's it. Thanks, everybody. Let's have a great day. Keep them coming. Talk to you. Bye.